Hi everyone, I'm Eva Charlotte, and I'm here to continue to talk about mortality, death. In these times when coronavirus is going around the world, this is an opportunity to really come to terms with the fact, because it is a fact, that at some point each and every one of us will leave these physical bodies. It might happen tomorrow, it might be many, many years from now, but it will happen. And I find through my own life experiences that having come to terms with that, accepting that that is the truth and it can happen at any time, I have no control over that, it has set me free in ways I would never have expected. It's pretty amazing. And I've already shared with you my skydiving accident many years ago. That was the starting point of that, my first encounter with death, looking the angel of death right in the eyes and surrendering. I've had two more encounters with death in different ways after that, and I'll share one today. It's not that long ago. It's, I don't know, I would say maybe 10 years now that this started. I was living at the top of my career, living a dream life, traveling the world, sharing, teaching, speaking on stages, supporting people while being with family and seeing the world. It was amazing. I loved my life. Um, I was well aware that I was within someone else's life dream platform, but I felt I had my own reality, my own dream within the dream, just like I could have had a job at a big corporation and had traveled the world that way. For me, it was no difference, and I didn't see any limitation with the way I was living my life. I was so happy, so inspired. And then things changed. At that point in time, I had worked with a spiritual teacher. I was his apprentice. I had been for many years by that time, and really, really intense reflection on a daily basis. And I had learned to live in the center of the hurricane. Very little would rock my boat. And God knows I was tested all the time. So I felt happy. Regardless of what was going on around me, I could keep calm, I could stay happy, continue with my life, and I thought I had mastered that. And I guess in a way I had. What I wasn't aware of was that I was doing it through control by vigilantly staying aware of what was going on with this body, mind, and emotions, how I was reacting and shifting it, shifting it, shifting it. And it worked. It absolutely worked. But it took a tremendous amount of energy, which I wasn't aware of. It was exhausting, actually. And then all of a sudden, I could not stay calm any longer. It would show up in subtle ways to start with. I would be reactive when I normally wouldn't be. I would cry for no reason when normally I never cried. And it was very strange. And it became more and more frequent and stronger reactions. And I started to become bitchy when normally I'm a kind person. And people around me were beginning to question what was going on. What's up with you? And what's going on? And I don't know. I don't know. I really didn't. I didn't understand it. It was scary. I felt like my personality was changing and I wasn't choosing it. And it wasn't coming from any aware place in me. It was really, really scary. And it got worse and worse and worse. And I became paranoid and scared for no reasons. And my partner would walk into the room and I would flinch out of fear. And then I would realize I was flinching out of fear and judge myself. Because why am I flinching when my beloved is walking into the room? It didn't make sense. Things like that. It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And I would seek different doctors or counselors or all kinds of ways of trying to find some kind of understanding to what was going on. And that went on for years, actually. It continually got worse and worse. And I finally found a functional medicine holistic doctor who's also an MD, who started testing me for all kinds of things. And she finally came back with a diagnosis of Lyme disease. And as terrible as that was, to get that kind of diagnosis with an illness that had horrendous reputation and can't be cured, it was a relief. Because at least now my mind had an understanding of what was going on, and I wasn't going insane, which I thought I was. I was losing my mind quite literally to the viruses and bacteria that had invaded my body, but at least I wasn't going insane. I wasn't losing it. So it was a relief, and still terrible. Treatments didn't make any difference, continued to get worse, and over time, it really, really affected my life. I was not fun to be around. I was in such fight or flight all the time that I would do exactly that. I would fight people, I would be bitchy and angry and reactive, or I would try to run away and be in avoidance and trying to hide. Complete fight or flight, paranoid. My mind wasn't working, I couldn't think straight. Nightmare. It was a nightmare for me to live with, but it was also a nightmare for everyone around me. And my life fell apart. Pretty much everything. Family, home, job, the traveling, the teaching, friendships, so much fell away. Income, health insurance, it all fell away. Yeah, terrifying. Terrifying. Really, no home, no money, no safe place, inside or out. Somehow in the midst of all of that, I knew it was a gift, but I was too caught up in the reality of what was going on for my physical body that even though I knew that, I had all the tools, I was trying to apply all the tools, it really wasn't working. It was too much. And I guess in a way you can say that the tools were all reliant upon a functioning mind. The mind is what directs those tools. All the tools I had anyway were all based in being able to direct my mind, and I couldn't, because the bacteria had made its home in my central nervous system, and it was affecting how my brain was working and how my emotional system was working and how my physical body was working. There was a disconnect in signals in the brain, and nothing was really working. Luckily, I had friends who made sure I was okay and held me through the time. Still, I think for 6 or 9 months, the thought of leaving this body, this world, was constantly on my mind. I got an invitation by a shaman healer to go to Peru to get some healing done there, and to go to the jungle, to the shaman I didn't know, in the middle of the jungle. And I was desperate for any kind of solution. So even though I didn't really know these people, I decided to go. And before I left, I wrote a will, deciding what to do with things, and made a very clear decision that if this does not help, this journey to the jungle, if this doesn't shift anything, I'm not coming back. I cannot live like this. I was at the end of my rope. I can't live like this. It was a different way of facing mortality and death, in that deep sense of wanting it. Like, truth being that I really would say not really wanted death, but I, I couldn't live the way my life was. I couldn't take that any longer, the emotional, continuous fight or flight distress, the insane mind that I had no control over because it was chemically created by a foreign invader in my body that no medication helped with. It wasn't even mind created thoughts and emotions. It was viral, like by viruses and bacteria. It's right. Those who have been there, you guys understand what it's like. I could never have understood it if I hadn't experienced it. So it wasn't really that I wanted to die per se, but I wanted that to stop. And I had tried everything, I thought. Nothing worked. And the fact that I had had such incredible training in staying calm, centered, and happy no matter what, and that didn't work. The guilt and shame and the sense of failure and completely was spinning out of control. And really, really looking the angel of death in the eyes in a very different way than I had in my skydiving accident. And landing in that place of knowing, like I had experienced in the skydiving accident, that yes, my body can die, but I'm not my body. And if life in this body becomes so unbearable, it's like shedding skin. It's like trading in an old car for a new one. And I don't need this old car. If it's not serving me any longer, I don't need it. I don't want to drive this car any longer. And that's how I went to the jungle. And I ended up with a shaman who prescribed ayahuasca, which was something I would never have chosen back in those days. I had judgmental ideas around that, and I felt it was like a drug, and I was so trained in that we don't need that for mind opening, and I still think that's true, we don't need it. But I wasn't seeking it out to open my mind. It came my way as a means of healing for a physical illness. So when the shaman prescribed that, I just surrendered. Okay, I guess I'm doing ayahuasca. And I stayed there for 5 weeks that first time. I've been back many times since. And during those 5 weeks, I think I had 25 journeys, something like that. Some really beautiful and fantastic. Others terrible and horrendous and scary and gut-wrenching. And so much to be said about that. I'm so grateful for that journey. But from the point of where I went there, why I went there, and being so aware of my mortality and my body not being what I am, my thoughts and emotions not being what I am, and truly really going deeper into that experience through the journeys with this plant medicine. But most of all, it really, really helped with healing. I came back from those 5 weeks feeling on top of the world again, like ready, okay, I can create a new life again. This is it, I'm healed. I was so inspired. It turned out I was a little too fast. It wasn't quite done yet. But it took me out of wanting to leave this world. Now I knew there was a way. And even though it didn't hold, it took me out of the absolute depth of, I cannot take this any longer, to feeling at top of the world again. And then I sunk back again, but never to that depth. And that's how my journey has been, healing. It's been coming up, falling back down, coming up higher, falling back down, coming up ever higher, and on and on and on and on. And through that whole journey, one of the things that I had to face through Lyme disease is acceptance. Even though I did find a medicine that helped, it didn't take it away, and I still had to find a way to live with what was going on in my body, in my mind, and in my emotions. The training I had had up until that point was so much focused on the fact that our mind, our thinking, our way of utilizing our thinking and our emotions is what brings about our reality. And I got really good at that. Like, I started this sharing with how I knew how to stay in the center of the hurricane. And I was so aware when something was about to arise in my being, and I could feel it, and I would say, I'm not going there. Take a breath, step back, and choose to be happy again. What I didn't understand in that practice that I mastered was that I was totally denying all those aspects of myself, all the emotions and all the mind-created thinking that comes from the past. Like, this body and mind has walked through many, many years on this earth now, and Eva has experienced so many things. And when something is triggering an old experience that's been held in this body, this persona, a similar reaction can come up automatically. And my training was to become aware of that and not go there. At least that's how I had understood the training. And now with Lyme disease, I had no control. It wasn't necessarily that body, mind, past reaction that was activated. It was thoughts and emotions created by the bacteria and viruses that were now present in this body. So I could become afraid for no apparent reason, or paranoid, or incredibly sad, or angry for no apparent reason, and I couldn't control it. God knows I tried. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried. And I judged myself, and I cried, and I felt like a failure, and I thought this was never going to end. And when I came to that bottom, in that place, that even the ayahuasca journeys and the healing that actually did happen there wasn't going to be enough to really take me out of this, I realized that I was literally falling from an airplane without a parachute once again. And the one thing that was missing was acceptance. I was so in resistance to what was going on in my body and mind and in my life. It felt so unfair. I had lost everything, and I hadn't done anything other than get sick. I was such a victim. I was so disappointed and really did not feel it was fair. And none of that really changed until I realized acceptance was the key that was missing. And I started working on that, of releasing any kind of judgments, any kind of resistance, any kind of reaction to, fighting against, pushing against, denying, any of those fighting energies, and instead just be with what was happening and come to an acceptance. Okay, I can't change it, so how can I live with it? How can I be with the fact that at any moment in time, this incredible fear can come over me in the line in the CVS, or sitting at a dinner table with friends, and my body goes into fight or flight, and all of a sudden I'm angry and like a cactus with energies like that, and friends are pulling away, or the cashier in CVS is like, what's wrong with this woman? And I'm feeling all those reactions, and I have to deal with all of that. How can I just be with that? How can I accept that, be with it, and even embrace it? That took longer, but starting with just allowing it, being with it, not running from it, just being with it. And as I started that process, everything began to change. And of course, it was one step forward, two step back, two step forward, one step back, and I would forget it and I would come back to it. But little by little, that tension that had built over all those years of being so in resistance started to melt away. And I began to be able to bring my awareness to all those aspects of myself that had closed down and be there and allow that closeness to be there and just be there and feel the tension and the protectiveness that had become my norm. I got so used to feeling rejected and shunned because of how I was showing up that I pulled away and closed myself off more and more and more. And that didn't change in the beginning. It had to come from within. I had to be with all of that myself. I had to be with myself in that insane craziness with all that emotion and crazy thinking, and really remind myself this is not what I am. I really become and be the witness of it without detaching from it, without separating. So difference of bypassing and denying and avoid, it wasn't that at all. It was knowing it's not what I am. I am spirit, I am soul, I am consciousness itself, the awareness that is witnessing this, that is aware of this intense fear arising in this woman right here, right now. And I'm feeling it as me, and it is me as a human being here. And I, as awareness, can be with Ava as she is experiencing this. And as I was, Ava started to relax. And the tension melted away. And the fear became less intense, or the anger, or the anxiety, or the fear would still come. And at times it would still be incredibly intense. But it didn't scare me the same way. I could be intensely scared physically, but there was an aspect of me that wasn't scared of being scared, if that makes sense. And it changed everything. And little by little, I really landed in me again and became very present here. And even though Lyme is still present, as far as I know, in my body, the tests are still showing it's there. And yes, I can feel anxiety or fear or anger and all of that coming up in my body. I don't label it Lyme disease any longer. It's just part of being human. I have all those emotions. But I now am so rooted in that in me that is not of form, awareness, consciousness. And I can bring that. I can bring my open heart to me as a human when there's sadness or fear or anger or whatever is present. And understand that, yes, I understand why you feel that way, Ava. I understand it. I understand why I, as a human, feel this way. Look, the path I have walked, it's natural that this particular scenario brings that particular reaction. I totally get it. Absolutely. And as I'm with that, with myself, it's like being with a child that's scared. The child is still scared at first, but as you sit there with a child and you allow this child to be scared and reactive and express what he or she is feeling, it calms down. And eventually something else is arising. I'm so incredibly grateful to Lyme disease for that, and for the fact that my life fell apart the way it did. It had to be that intense, ruthless for me to go to those deep places in myself, to those dark corners that I had avoided no matter what, that I had created this whole scenario of being able to um, notice when any of those old things just started to make themselves heard, I would say, nope, not going there. I was totally in denial and avoidance. I had no clue. I thought I had mastered being in the center of the hurricane, which in a way I had, but through avoidance. And absolutely that worked in so many ways. And yet now, living in acceptance, oh my God, the difference. Absolutely, things are still arising. But it is arising in this loving field of acceptance, and that doesn't go away, even though there's other things present. And all of that, because of Lyme disease, because of looking in the eyes of mortality once again, looking into the eyes of the depth of the pain, and being with it, really being with it, not avoiding it, not creating up stories of this or that, or distractions, or any of that stuff. I had to just be with it. It changed everything. So in the light of what's going on in the world now with coronavirus, and it's scary. I understand that's scary. Personally, it doesn't scare me. I know I'm going to die one day, and if it's from corona, then it's from corona. But I understand it's scary. There's a potential threat out there, and for some, this is the reality. Some of you out there are sick, have loved ones who are sick, people dying, and it's always painful. Even if it's part of life, it's painful. I get that. There's economic fear. People are losing their jobs. How we're going to survive when we can't work. All of that. It's real, absolutely. But in the middle of that, by learning to find that place that is untouched by it, because there is an aspect of all of us that is untouched. The aspect of us that live beyond body-mind. By learning how to come home to that, or staying home, so take the opportunity to come home to what you really are, and reconnecting with that. If you can learn to do that, you can walk through what's going on right now with a sense of peace. Yes, all of the other things are still there, and yes, there might still be fear present and worry about money and all of that. But there's also a peace, and that peace holds everything else. It makes the world of difference. I'm walking in. It's changed my life. During these times, if you need support in any way, I'm offering my services for pay if you can, what you can, donation. Just send me a private message and let's have a conversation. I'm happy to support any one of you in any way I can. So just reach out. Thanks for listening.